So what do Americans get for the money we pay in? Well, sure, we get a crumbling infrastructure, shameful homelessness, and millions of hungry, neglected children.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back for another amazing video. David Cross's Why America Sucks at Everything. We do suck at a lot of things. We were not very good at a lot of things, but we're going to be checking that out today. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. If you guys are returning viewers, welcome back. If you guys haven't taken time out of your day to do what I'm about to tell you to do, I need you guys to smash that like button and hit that subscribe button because we are growing to 500,000 subscribers, whether you like that or not, okay? David Cross, who is he? If you've seen Scary Movie, he's the stop! I could do it myself. He's that dude. So we're gonna go ahead and check out what he has to say about why America sucks at everything. If you guys agree with any of these points, please let me know in the comments down below. If you guys want to participate in these streams in the future, hit that link in the description down below. Put some hair on your chest. It's at twitch.tv/JamesBrayGang. Let's go ahead and get into this thing and see exactly what we're working with. Let's go, no ski. Gravel Institute. Up next. America is bad at everything. America continues to be bad at everything, and at 7 o'clock, rat pageant.
America is the greatest country on earth.
I mean, not the 2 mile horn, but
strongest, the richest, the most powerful country on earth.
I am not gonna lie, man. The nukes speak volumes.
As an American, I'm sure you've heard that roughly 135 times a year. 235 if you go to public school. 335 if you go to a Christian academy. We're told that Americans have the best lives of any people in the world.
That's exactly what we are told on a daily basis. So it's hard to not believe it. You know what I mean?
That we have low taxes, small government, and the highest living standards on earth. And most inaccurately, that we're the freest.
Yeah, that's definitely not true.
Well, it is partly true.
Yeah.
America is the richest country, not just in the world, but in the history of the world.
The Patriot juice,
it's really
you're
hard
right.
to comprehend just how rich we are. We have 18 million people who are millionaires.
18 million millionaires in America, man. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy.
American households own about $100 trillion in wealth, an almost unthinkable amount of money.
$100 trillion in wealth? Where's my $100 trillion in wealth?
Okay, so America is the richest country ever.
What?
But there's a curious paradox. Most Americans actually have a much worse standard of living than people who live in poorer countries like Germany or Finland or Britain. But how,
oh my God.
How can that be? That shouldn't make any sense. Well, here's the shitty deal. Americans get significantly worse services because our tax dollars don't fund them.
They don't! They fund the politicians! Oh, I'm glad somebody said it. Like, people say this all the time, like, listen, I'm a tax-paying citizen, so I should have the right to say and do whatever I want. I'm like, do you know where your tax dollars are going, sir? Do you understand that that man has been in that same political seat for the last 15 years? And you're okay with that? Have you noticed the potholes have only grown in abundance in your local area? Your pipeline system is absolute dog shiznit. Have you noticed that a lot of the programs that you would desire to have with your tax dollars don't exist? Why is that, you ask? Because politicians are the superpower. I'm gonna say something. You might not agree with it. Hear me out. You know the whole tax the rich shit? Whose idea was that? Wasn't the middle class, wasn't the lower class. Honestly, it came from the upper class politicians. Think about how that works. If you're a politician, you put a law in place, right? You guys as a group put laws in place that like, hey, listen, we need to tax the rich and use that money to do XYZ, a bunch of empty promises, right? You tax the people who are already wealthy, take their money and sideswipe that shit to your bank account. So you get a beefier paycheck. That's not going to any tax program stuff. It's going to beefing up your pockets. That's how that works. So while everybody on the ground level is like, yes, finally, the rich people are getting taxed by other rich people, and the rich people that are getting taxed are giving money to the politicians. what about us? That's exactly where the money's going. That's why we don't have anything here. But I'll let him talk.
So, of course, our services are worse, and thus we enjoy less happy lives than people who live in the aforementioned countries. Not that difficult a concept to conceive, really. You get what you pay for, said the cartoon dog to the other cartoon dog.
True that.
And while you might think the reason American tax dollars don't fund as many services is because we pay lower taxes than other countries.
Nope, it's because they're being used in a lot of corrupt schemes, and we're very aware of it. That's the thing. With the rise of the internet, we are not only aware, but we're also able to wake everybody the hell up out of the false reality that is our tax dollars going to meaningful programs.
That's not even true. When you add federal, state, local, and sales taxes and include other costs and services that our taxes don't cover but other countries' taxes do, like our uniquely high health insurance premiums, you'll find that Americans actually give away more of their wages than most of the developed world.
I was just saying that. We keep most of our money after, taxes and stuff like that, but inversely, we give away all the money that we kept to programs that other countries have so that you can save more of your money. So we actually come out of this whole thing with less money than most other countries. We'll get paid, let's say, $1,000 every 2 weeks. We get taxed on that $1,000 and take home about $800 every 2 weeks, right? Well, you think, wow, you guys get $1,600 a month. That's not too bad. $1,600 take home. That's awesome. Well, we have to have health insurance, $200 a month. Then, we have to pay for certain things out of pocket, like dental care and blah, blah, blah. So those come out of pocket. And that's not to mention you got rent to pay, bills, standard bills. And there is this credit culture here in America where we like to spend money that's not ours. So at the end of the day, you're probably saving a couple dollars to yourself. You're probably taking home a couple actual dollars after all of those expenses, whereas someone from another country would have a lot more to work with, can live a lot freely, a lot more freely, and live a happier life. Not to say that other countries don't have corruption in their governments and things like that, but the thing is, it's so crazy. It's like a big song and dance and cloak and dagger thing here in America and stuff like that. They're like, oh yeah, you guys have everything you could have ever wanted. And then we're like, yeah, we do, right? And then we go and travel to other countries and we're like, why do you guys have such a better life than us? Not every country, but some countries. We're like, damn, that's crazy.
For example, in Canada, for a married worker with 2 kids, all of the previously mentioned costs combined, from taxes to health insurance premiums, make up only 11% of the average wage. In the UK, it's just about 26%. Meanwhile, once you tack on the cost of our outlandish health insurance premiums, you're spending a whopping 43% of your paycheck. That's more than France, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. In real reality, Americans keep much less of what we own than in other countries. In other countries, their government takes a bit more tax, but then gives that money back to their citizens in the form of healthcare or job support, or a general safety net for all vulnerable citizens, no matter how dusky they are.
Yep.
So what do Americans get for the money we pay in? Well, sure, we get a crumbling infrastructure, shameful homelessness, and millions of hungry, neglected children, but we also get some of the worst services in the developed world.
Amen. Some of the worst service I've ever gotten in my entire life, obviously, is from America. Some of the best service I've ever had in my entire life was where? Not America. Korea. Korea has the best customer service in the world. Holy schmoly, dude. I've never felt more valued in my entire life. When I went to Korea, I felt like the king of the world because people were so respectful and they cared about what you thought and all these. I mean, yeah, they wanted your money, but it was. I wanted to spend my money there. I felt like I'm like, damn, I need to give you the biggest tip ever. Crazy. Real reality.
Again, our healthcare. American healthcare is simultaneously the most expensive, the least efficient, and the least effective healthcare system in the developed world. Hey, the devil's trifecta.
Someone says in the chat, George Carlin once said it's called the American... Oh, actually, Hannah says in the chat, George Carlin says that it's called the American dream because you need to be asleep to believe it. Legend, and also passed away way too early. And I completely agree with you.
And in exchange for this extremely expensive, inefficient healthcare system, what do we get? Well, we get some of the worst health outcomes in the developed world. We have fewer hospital beds per capita than people in Turkey or Brunei. Americans have a lower life expectancy than people in Lebanon or Cuba. And in the Mississippi Delta and much of Appalachia, life expectancy is lower than in Bangladesh.
Oh my God.
In fact, in 2017, the United Nations sent a commissioner to West Virginia to document what he saw, and he described, quote, third world conditions of absolute poverty.
Yeah, that's a lot of the small towns in America are living really, like, horribly, dude.
Unquote. We even have a higher infant mortality rate than people in Russia and Serbia. In every single metric, America does worse across the board. So why is healthcare so expensive? Because it's so complicated. You have to look for in-network physicians, schedule an established care appointment, beg for coverage from your insurance company.
True that.
That couldn't care less about you.
Of course, they want money. They don't care about your livelihood.
And that's if you're lucky enough to have good insurance. Compare that to Britain and all of those other evil, socialist-like countries where...
You know what's crazy? A lot of people that are still in the matrix, is what I like to call it, that still believe that, you know, we have the best system ever and every other country is a communist country and blah, 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 blah. They don't realize they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're like, oh my God, like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, you are paying an arm and a leg to try to get basic health care coverage, and you still have to pay co-pays and stuff for your hospital bills.
Here's the best part. Even though Britain offers healthcare for free, their system is actually a lot cheaper to run than ours. Per capita healthcare spending in the US is almost 3 times what it is in Britain. And almost 5 times what Canadians spend. In fact, Americans spend the most per person of any country in the world for healthcare.
Jesus Christ.
But the free market is more efficient, you screech. But in America, private systems often aren't efficient at all. Private drug companies have an incentive to charge whatever they can get away with for pharmaceuticals. In Canada, a carton of insulin costs about $20. In the US, it costs $300.
Jesus Christ.
And with private insurance companies footing the bill, hospitals have an incentive to get as much money out of patients as possible too. In 2015, the average cost of an MRI scan in the US was $1,119. But it was only $215 in Australia. Spain, about $181. And our healthcare system is so inefficient that we spend over 1/3 of our cost on administration.
Oh my God, really?
The United States spends significantly more on administration than we spend on preventative or long-term healthcare.
And even with all these videos, with all this information, politicians in America still try to sweep the rug from underneath its people and sell these boneless pipe dreams. Boneless.
That's just not smart. Okay, we get it. We all know that American healthcare is so much more expensive of having the freest freedom in God's favorite country. Well, guess what? Medical procedures that are totally free in Britain, like giving birth, cost tens of thousands of dollars in the United States. I mean, you want to talk about the cost of freedom. Sadly, because of these high costs, Americans often avoid going to the doctor, something almost half the population say they do.
Yep, exactly. I've met people like that. They're like, man, I can't afford to go to the hospital, so I just don't go. I'd rather not know. That's exactly what... Bro, listen, I think the reason why I'm going to live pretty decently long is because I'm in the military, to be honest. Like, the military takes care of its people, man, and like my health insurance is covered. I've not had to pay a single penny towards health insurance because it's covered by the military.
With shoddy or non-existent health insurance, Americans will wait until their conditions force them into the emergency room where treatment is far more expensive. Again, not a smart system. Quite often, they end up putting off medical visits and dying. Susan Finley, a 53-year-old Walmart employee in Colorado, got pneumonia and took 1 day off of work beyond what Walmart's policy allows.
Ooh.
So of course, Walmart's gonna Walmart, which they did by firing her.
Damn, that sucks.
Without her job, she lost her nominal health care coverage, she struggled to find new work, and after avoiding a visit to the doctor for flu-like symptoms, she was found dead in her apartment.
See, isn't that messed up? That's messed up, and that happens a lot.
When Americans do manage to get treated, they frequently can't afford it. Simple, life-saving treatments can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and if they don't have really good insurance, they're forced to take on medical debt. Tens of millions of Americans owe medical debt, often into the tens of thousands of dollars. Meanwhile, in a country like Britain or Norway, medical debt is almost unheard of. But hey, that's why GoFundMe is such a critical component of American healthcare.
Hey, man, GoFundMe's been like popping the hell off. If people are like, hey, man, I got like people have been able to raise like $30,000 in a couple days, man, thanks to GoFundMe. So I mean, it's sad that that's what we've had to get, resort to, but boom.
1 in 3 GoFundMe campaigns is now for medical bills. I'll repeat that.
1 in 3. 1 in 3. Almost all the ones I've seen have strictly been for medical campaigns.
3 GoFundMe campaigns is now for medical bills. America is such a strong, powerful, rich, and great country that its citizens have to beg strangers on the internet for money so they can get life-saving treatments that are free in the rest of the developed world.
Isn't that crazy? It's wild, right? And so people here in America are like, oh, we got it so good. We got it so good. I'm like, do we really have it that good if this is what we have to do just to get the basic amount of health care here? That's crazy, man.
But hey, that's just healthcare.
And not all that money gets used on the medical treatment too. So people will raise like $400,000 or $500,000 for this medical treatment, and the people who get the money wind up spending it on like other things that are not related to the medical bill. Man, there's so much corruption with the system; it's insane.
Americans get terrible deals wherever you look. Let's take work, for example. Americans work longer hours than people in any other rich country in the world, and that's not because they enjoy sleep deprivation and not seeing their families for days at a time. It's because they don't want to starve, or freeze, or die. See, America has the least generous job support programs, the least generous family benefits, and the least generous unemployment benefits of any wealthy country.
Isn't that crazy?
It's one of the only countries on Earth that doesn't guarantee paid time off for vacations. It doesn't even help provide paid time off for parents who just had a child.
Jesus.
And it's not coincidental.
Also, if you guys have not subscribed to this point, I don't know what you're doing. Please subscribe to the channel. Subscribe. Come on. Subscribe. All right? You haven't subscribed yet? Hit that red button. 500K. It would be a nice feat to celebrate that with all of you guys. Have a huge surprise at 500K. 500K, true.
America has one of the lowest unionization rates in the entire world. Maybe this deprivation, our refusal to give people the means to lead a good, dignified life commensurate with how rich our country is, can explain a bit of what we've seen in the United States over the last few decades.
True.
Fraying communities, rising rates of depression and suicide, huge numbers of deaths from drug overdoses. These so-called deaths of despair, suicide, drug overdoses, alcoholic liver disease, they're one big reason why American life expectancy has actually started to decline over the last few years.
Absolutely. I've been calling it out. I'm like, yo, so what is a midlife crisis? And they're like, oh yeah, midlife crisis is like in your 50s. I'm like, that's a bit generous though, isn't it? Because like, I feel like people live to about 50 or 60 in America, to be honest. Like 50, 60 is about the average. So midlife crisis would be where I'm at right now. I'm like 26, about to be 27, and I'm already like feeling that type of stuff. You know what I mean? I feel like this is the halfway point for me. That's it. Like a lot of people like, oh, nah, man, like you live to 100. Not in America. Most people don't get to live that long. That's a privilege, dude. Like, and it's very rare, and it's a blessing to live that long, but most people don't live that long.
It's not a surprise that poverty is so rampant in the United States. America devotes a smaller percentage of spending on social welfare than any other industrialized economy because, say it with me, socialism is evil. It's evil. Go to Denmark and try telling those happy, healthy families enjoying their paid vacation that their system of government is evil.
You know why a lot of Americans, I feel like, say that socialism is evil? Because they want to be wealthy at someone else's expense, right? A lot of people who really push the creation of that narrative, the creation of the socialism is evil narrative, are people who already have a whole lot of money, who want to make more money off the backs of other people, knowing damn well that the people they're making money off of are damn near close to living in poverty.
Guess what? I guarantee they'll know you're an American. But I digress. America also has the highest rate of child poverty of any developed country, and the highest percentage of workers earning significantly less than the national median income.
Wow.
That seems pretty evil to me, especially since such a tiny fraction take as much of your money for themselves and their families as you will let them. All the while, both parties smile and shake hands. Across every single metric, no people accept a worse deal than Americans today. High taxes, high cost of living for next to nothing in return from the government. The most expensive healthcare system for the worst health outcomes. More money taken from workers for the highest rate of child poverty.
Jesus.
We are the richest country in the history of the world, but we have fewer miles of high-speed rail than Uzbekistan.
That's insane.
The greatest country in the world, yet we have the most people in prison of any country. And
people try to keep people in prison here. Like the government tries to actively keep people in prison in America. It's the craziest thing. I always talk about it. I'm like, bro, for possession of Mary Jane, just for possession back in the day, like in 2010 and back, like you could get up to 25 years in prison and up to $100,000 in fines just for having it on your person.
Incarceration rate as well, and a higher rate of police killings than in Angola and Sudan.
Damn.
America's bad at everything because instead of choosing to make life better for people through a public healthcare system or more generous childcare policies or better public transit or programs that allow people...
Capitalism has completely dominated the country. And I told you, the downside of capitalism.
Spend more time with their families. American law is designed and crafted to protect a class of parasitical middleman industries. Instead of using a proportionally tiny piece of the massive amount of the wealth in this country to make people's lives healthier and happier, most of our elected leaders are, and have been for generations, engaged in a massive project of looting.
Yep. And they're okay with that. They are okay with that. And they want everybody here to be okay with that too. It's messed up.
Gently and lovingly guiding as much money as possible from working
welcome, Tinker Maid. I just saw your comment. Hello.
People into the pockets of the well-connected and the ultra-rich. Think about that as we start hearing about the inevitable rise in homelessness, poverty, starvation, and sickness that will occur during these coming months and years in the greatest, strongest, richest, most powerful country on the face of the earth.
Crazy, man. Crazy. This is the reality of it all. America, down bad. Horrible. Boom. And all the politicians who point out the looting are being slandered to the max, even getting death threats from citizens. Exactly. The politicians who are trying to do their jobs the right way are getting death threats. And mainly it's from other politicians that are crooked. And it's almost like they're riling up people who believe that the crooked politicians are the people who need to be protected almost, you know? And so these crooked politicians use their cult audience to attack the good politicians. And that's how nothing gets passed to improve our society in America. It's crazy.